But again, it was one of these like fluky, once in a lifetime type plays where, it makes you think, well, maybe God was on his side, but it also makes you think, he can't keep this up. He can't possibly keep winning like this. And I like to refer to it as the house that Tim Tebow built, because having him arrive in Columbia, South Carolina, listen, this is Southeastern Conference territory. Tim Tebow is nothing short of a legend around here, if not some sort of apostolic saint. Because Tim Tebow has got to be one of my favorite athletes ever. I didn't like him that much back when he was actually playing football because I felt like the hype around him was unwarranted. But he's an absolute savage. And I've already got us started here. I've already got the ball rolling here. So we might as well hop into it. When I heard Tim Tebow retired, it reminded me of this video right here that I think I saw on Reddit back in the 2011 season. Okay, as you can see the timestamp down here, 2011. And if you don't know who Tim Tebow is, then I suggest you listen up, because this video is going to tell you everything you need to know about Timothy Richard Tebow, okay? So let's listen to this and we'll talk about him. And there's no sound at this. I don't know. It takes forever for this title to move, but trust me, you'll hear it.
This kid is a gamer. He's a baller. He's a playmaker and a shot caller. In case you didn't know, I got Tebow. He shattered the mold, and all he does is win. All he does is win games. Listen, I got Tebow. He shattered the mold, and all he does is win. All he does is unleash.
Tell Tebow, let him go. It's
time.
Turn him loose.
Let him play. Let him
play on Sunday.
Unleash.
Tell Tebow, let him go. It's
time.
Turn him loose.
Let him play.
I'm going to church Sunday.
Run, pass, option, I think that's my game.
I guarantee you that.
I'm no John Elway.
He's rewriting the book. Week in and week out.
He's a
unique football player. That's what Tim Tebow's all about.
He's a gamer. He's a baller. Playmaker. Shot caller. He's a gamer. He's a baller. Playmaker. Shot caller. Unleash.
Tim Tebow. Let him go. It's
time.
Turn him loose.
Let him play. Let him
play on Sunday.
And all he does is win. All he does is win.
One more day, one more win.
All he does is win game.
Timothy Richard Tebow, most notably known as Tim Tebow. He really shook up the football world in the 2011 season. Dan, I totally agree. Not only is this song good for encapsulating the feeling around 2011 Tebow, but it also slaps. It's a song I like to hear. It's... Richard is cringe. Well, most people don't call him Timothy Richard Tebow. That's just what his full name is. He was controversial for a lot of reasons. First and foremost, I would say, was his skill at football. He was tremendously successful in college. He was the Florida Gators starting quarterback during the 2007 season. In 2008, Tim Tebow led Florida to a 13-1 record, its second national championship in 3 years. And I think he was actually on the 2006 season when on the team when they went and won it, but I don't think he was a starting quarterback. Corey, I guess you can fact check me on that. I think that's what that means, though. But he became the first college sophomore to win the Heisman Trophy, which is pretty insane. He scored a touchdown in the first championship, so he was even playing in that. Like, he was, and some people consider him to be like the greatest college football quarterback of all time. I might be a little bit out of pocket by saying that because I know Joe Burrow had like the best single season, but Tim Tebow is an absolute, legend in college football. If I should have looked this up before, but I want to say he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. I'm not seeing that on his award, so maybe not. But, if he's not yet, he will be because he's just an absolute savage. Everybody loves Tim Tebow. But there's a couple of things that I love in this. First off, it's the fact that Hulk Hogan is in here talking about Tim Tebow tells you everything you need to know.
Let him play. Let him
play on Sunday.
Unleash.
Tim Tebow. Let him go.
It's time.
Turn him loose.
Let him play.
I'm going to church Sunday.
Okay, actually, well, since we saw that one first, This guy here, this is the second thing about Tim Tebow that was controversial, was he was a outspoken Christian. He brought his beliefs onto the field, and some people didn't like it, okay? He was famous for something called Tebowing. You might remember it. It looks a little bit like this. You know, some people call it doing the Tim Tebow, but it was called Tebowing, and he would do it all the time, and it would enrage people. No religion on my football field. But Tim Tebow, he's always been like this, and if you watch him in interviews and stuff, he's very much a Christian man, an upstanding Christian man. Yeah, he literally knelt for God. And I respect it, and that my problems definitely did not with Tim Tebow definitely did not stem from Tim Tebow's religion or his faith and spreading that. If anything, honestly, there's a lot of Christians in the NFL, a lot of guys like this. I think is how you're supposed to do it. Like the part of being a Christian is you're supposed to go out and save other people and bring them into the religion. And Tim Tebow is using his platform for that. And it was, I wouldn't say it was at the level of like Colin Kaepernick, where people were like, I don't want to hear your beliefs, just play football. But there was definitely backlash for Timothy Tebow doing the Tim Tebow. But that was only part of it. The other part of it was how well he played, because there's this whole thing with like college football quarterbacks not being as good in the pros. Like being a quarterback in the NFL is insanely difficult. And even if you're really good in college, it doesn't necessarily mean a thing about how you're going to do in the NFL. And a lot of people looked at Tim Tebow, who was taken in the first round by the Denver Broncos in 2010. He was not. Wait, let me see. Okay, he was taken as a rookie in 2010, and he played the last 3 games of his rookie season, and then he became the full-time starter the 6th game of the 2011 season, which is the one that's like the famous season for him. And he was winning despite the odds. He became famous for these late-game heroics, late-game comebacks, which is part of the reason why he had this hype around him. Because people kept saying, it's like, he can't keep this up. He can't keep winning at the last second. Tim Tebow, it's like, he can't keep getting this lucky. Or is it divine intervention? Is Tim Tebow, is he kneeling and winning God's favor, and that's how he's being able to win these games? It was very entertaining drama surrounding the sport. Even if you don't like football, it can be entertaining to pay attention to these narratives and these storylines, and Tim Tebow was a big storyline for that season. And it all culminated in the Broncos actually winning their division, which was the first time they had done it in a long time at that point, and also Tim Tebow winning a playoff game in the most divine intervention way ever. Maybe not ever, but in a big time, like, showing way. It was against the Steelers, and I believe it was in Denver, and they went to overtime. I was watching this game with my dad. I remember doing this. That overtime playoff game was wild, Brendan. I went to he ended the Steelers franchise that day. Yeah, so basically it was a good game. I don't remember how it went to overtime, but I remember my dad and I watched this game together, and we were loving it. It was a great game. I'm a Niners fan. My dad's kind of a neutral fan, so we were just looking for great football, and they gave it to us. It was a great playoff game, and they were going to overtime, and my dad and I were like, oh boy, let's get some more snacks, like more football. So we run to the kitchen, get more snacks, get more stuff, run back, sit down. Oh boy, here it comes, first play of overtime, and Tim Tebow drops back and hits Demaryius Thomas on a deep slant, and Demaryius Thomas takes that ball all the way to the end zone, 1 play touchdown, and with the NFL's overtime rules, that's an instant win. And it's just, whoa, everybody goes crazy. Tim Tebow did it. Tim Tebow's Tebowing over there. Everybody loses their shit. It was legendary. But again, it was one of these fluky, once in a lifetime type plays where, it makes you think, well, maybe God was on his side, but it also makes you think, he can't keep this up. He can't possibly keep winning like this. And, that kind of showed a little bit later during the 2012 offseason. He was traded to the Jets, and he didn't really get much playing time there. I actually remember the Niners playing a game against the Jets that season. That was the 2012 season where Colin Kaepernick was on his come up. He ended up stealing Alex Smith's job. But in that game against the Jets, they were talking all week on like the Niners, forums and stuff. They're like, oh no, what are they going to do with Tebow? He's going to be like, they're going to put him in for some gadget play. And what ended up happening was Colin Kaepernick ended up playing in gadget plays, and he scored a rushing touchdown against the Jets. And then later, Tim Tebow went to the Patriots briefly and to the Eagles briefly, but he never actually played any games for them, any real games for them. And then he kind of petered out of the NFL, and then he joined baseball. He became a baseball. He went from being a football Andy to a baseball Andy, and he signed with the Mets, which means that he would go down the ladder of baseball teams from the Mets all the way down to the single-A team, the Columbia Fireflies, which is the hometown team here in Columbia. It's we got a beautiful little ballpark there, but it is definitely single-A. And I like to refer to it as the house that Tim Tebow built, because having him arrive in Columbia, South Carolina, listen, this is Southeastern Conference territory. Tim Tebow is nothing short of a legend around here, if not some sort of apostolic saint. He is, he was the reason to go to Fireflies games in Columbia. I know that I'm flexing on you guys with my Aces jersey, and I'm being Asia Wilson. It's mostly because I just got this headband. I just wanted a reason to wear a sweatband. But I do own a Tim Tebow Fireflies t-shirt jersey, which has like the number 15 on the back and says Tebow. I think they still have like a statue of him there, but this is where he went to start his journey to the big leagues. And this article here that came out announcing his retirement gives us a little bit more information. Tim Tebow retiring from baseball after 5 years as a minor leaguer with the New York Mets. In 2007, Heisman Trophy winner. I think they have something in here about his, over 4 big league spring trainings, Tebow batted .151, which I'm not a baseball expert, but I'm pretty sure is not that good. But I do remember when he first started for the Fireflies, he hit a two-run homer. Like, he hit a homer, and there was already a guy on second or something. And even though I was deep in the computer lab at my college in Columbia, I could faintly hear the roar of the crowds as people cheered as Tim Tebow hit a homer for the hometown team. So, he's a great guy. And honestly, it's kind of interesting to see a guy like Tim Tebow who's so successful, in a lot of ways, by being a college football champion and also being a commentator on the SEC network, but also someone who's failed in so many dramatic ways. And by not making it through the NFL or being out of the league in a couple years, and then also baseball. It's kind of frustrating because part of the reason why he didn't make it so far was because of COVID stuff last season. Like, he got limited playing time. But honestly, I can't really speculate on that. I'm not much of a baseball guy. But I did see this really good quote from Tim Tebow, and I think it kind of does a lot to tell you what kind of a guy he is. So let's listen to Tim.
It's really trying to keep perspective and not letting other people define you, because they sure do want to. And I try to encourage young people all the time to not let the world or other people, outside sources, define you, because you're always going to have critics and naysayers and people that are going to tell you that you won't, that you can't, that you shouldn't. Most of those people are the people that didn't, that wouldn't, that couldn't. And don't be defined by outside sources. You go after your dreams. Succeeding or failing is not making it to the bigs, or it's not necessarily fulfilling that. It's having to not live with regret because I didn't try. And I just feel for all the young people out there that don't go after something because they're so afraid of failing, that you're going to live with a lot more regret than you would have if you tried and you failed. And I'm very passionate about that. And I think the reason that a lot of people don't go after things is because how much you will be criticized, and what if I fall flat on my face? And so fear and doubt and all these things creep in, and I just don't believe that's the healthiest way to live. I don't want to have to live with fear or doubt every day, and regardless of what everyone here says about me, it doesn't define me. And I'm so grateful that doesn't define me. There's one thing that defines me, and that's what God says about me. And besides that, I get to go live out my dreams and try to help as many people along the way as possible.
Preach, Tim. Preach, dude. How can you can't hate a guy like that, you know? I love it. There's something, I don't know, there's this idea of like seeing people who are so successful or talented or just great all around still fail, you know? I think it helps me to cope with the idea of failure or potential failure, right? Because you see somebody like Tim Tebow, who's this absolute legend, who still couldn't accomplish all of his dreams, but it's not the end of the world. He still finds a way to like live his life in a way that is, that he can be proud of. We can't all be Tom Brady. We can't all be, home run hitting Yasiel Puig, right? I'm sure Tim Tebow looks up to him as a baseball player, but you can still have your own perspective on life and be successful from your own perspective, which, I love that from Tim Tebow. I don't think I was mature enough to see that when I was younger in 2011 and making fun of him for being like not that good of a quarterback. But looking back on his career, I think it's really cool. And he's obviously not a guy who's going to be defined by only playing sports. I'm sure we'll see plenty of Tim Tebow on TV for years to come, not just, I'm sure on SEC Network, but even beyond that, who knows where Tim Tebow could go. So he's a pretty cool guy. I like Tim Tebow, and good for him. He's calling it quits on baseball, but he still did something that a lot of players don't do. He played two different pro sports, and he's an absolute legend. So, Tim Tebow's view on life is actually kind of, it's kind of in the same vein as our latest episode of the podcast, which is Disney Pixar's Soul. As you see behind me right here, the thumbnail we've got of I warped the images of me and Joey's faces from like the podcast artwork onto the animated characters from Soul. I give myself like a C-, but C- is still a passing grade. That was for the podcast plug. Yes. I mean, it is, because Soul it's a really, I don't know, if you guys have seen Inside Out, this is definitely in that same vein as Inside Out, where Soul is kind of about life, and it's very introspective and reflective and not authentic, but like deliberate about how you should live life. And I think it's great. I'm sure if you've heard people talking about Soul, you've probably heard them saying good things about it. Jamie Foxx voices the main character, and I think it's Tina Fey is the other main character. It's great. It's a great movie. Joey and I have a great discussion about it. I encourage you to watch it. I mean, if you're watching WandaVision, you've already got Disney Plus. So, and also, you don't need anyone to tell you to watch Pixar. Pixar is luxury computer animation. Like they were the first ever to make a feature-length computer animation film, which was Toy Story, and they've been on the cutting edge ever since. I'm not like a Disney stan, like a lot of, like there are a lot of, I'm not bashing those people, but there are a lot of people who stan Disney, especially Pixar, but I really do respect what they do, and I think Soul is another ambitious step. I think it's interesting to look at like where this could go from here, because Inside Out was such an interesting idea. I think Soul is a little bit less creative, but still really interesting. And, I feel like they're going to keep going in this direction of this, like, reimagining things about life and coming up with a fun explanation for it. Like, Inside Out was about, like, you have all your different emotions, and they're running the controls in your brain, and they're hitting buttons and storing your memories. Like, that was, like, a fun little metaphor. I won't tell you what happens in Soul because I don't want to spoil it, but it's a similar kind of concept where they take things from life and they're like, hey, what if this is how it worked? And you get to see it through fun Pixar animation. And I recommend you check it out because it's a good movie. And then obviously, because then you can listen to the podcast. We have been, kneading and massaging the podcast into a format that can be enjoyed by anybody. We do provide a synopsis at the beginning of each episode as a way to kind of get people on board with the movie, but there's no replacement for actually watching it yourself and making your own opinions. So I recommend you check it out. Available on all the different podcasting platforms. I challenge you to find a podcasting platform. I challenge you to find a podcasting platform we're not on. And then you can email us and to tell us that we're not on it, because other people have actually been emailing us. This is the, I'm looking at the Affable chat email right here. Check out this very real email from a real person who definitely sent it. Dulcie Hubbard, she says, "Hello, I just went back in my business office and I walked right into your SoundCloud profile." What is our SoundCloud profile doing in your business office? She goes, "Your SoundCloud profile, Affable chat," all one word with no space in the middle. And I want to say I really appreciated the videos you got there on your SoundCloud profile. I hope I'm not bothering you by texting you in a fucking email. I just thought you deserve more attention and you might need a hand with your profile. So I want to encourage you, this YT video base, www.musicsound.online for SC, which I assume means SoundCloud, that made it easier for me and my vision promote activity and engagement by reaching more. What kind of sentence is that? Anyways, that's all I hope I didn't bother. That's all I hope I didn't bother. For the time and go on the very good work. Fucking hell, dude. The fact that the thing is obvious to me after reading this email is that a absolutely real person definitely sat down and wrote this very real email. And go on the very good work, my friend. Exactly. We actually get these kind of emails all the time. But now I actually have an outlet to share them. I was like, showing them on the stream actually is pretty funny. We have received emails from real people, and we've read them on the podcast. But if you have, like, for instance, if you find a podcast platform we're not on, send us an email. If you have a question or anything, send us an email. We check this shit all the time. And you can have your input, or just do it right here in the chat. I know that's a lot easier. But anyways, let's clear some of these Tim Tebow tabs. A little alliteration for you, Tim Tebow tabs. And let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin.